Welcome to another episode of The Latest with Maya. Today, I am so happy to have a conversation with actor and comedian Dan Bakkedahl. You can currently see Dan in Dinner with the Parents on Amazon Freevee. Thank you so much for being on my show. I'm so excited to be talking with you again.
Oh, thanks so much, Maya. It's good to see you again.
You too. Yeah, so let's get started. So, who do you most admire and how has that impacted the way you live your life?
Wow. Who do I most admire in the whole world? Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, it starts at home. I think my mom probably, you know, she my mom had 3 kids and got divorced and then married a guy who had 4 kids, and so we had 7 kids in my house when I was growing up. And she lived through all of it. And she's still going, but then, my mom went back to college in her 50s and went into nursing and wound up working in hospice, which is,
Yeah,
such important work.
yeah.
Yeah, probably her. And
Oh,
as far as how it's affected me is, there are times where you reach what looks like a fork in the road or maybe even a wall in the middle of the road. And you go, well, that's it. I can't go any further. And I remember, if she can go to college in her 50s and go into nursing and all that, then I can make it through whatever little thing I'm going through, if that makes sense.
yeah, definitely. I love that. Yeah. So what lessons from your childhood have stayed with you?
Boy, well, I would hope all the good lessons stay with you, from childhood, please and thank you and
Yeah,
sharing and all that kind of stuff. But I think really doing what I do as an actor, as a comedic actor, almost
yeah,
primarily, um, I would say the idea of fun, of joy, of seek the joy in whatever moment I'm in. I spent a lot of time in Chicago working in improvisation, and that's all about follow the moment to find the joy.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So how do you stay motivated even when you aren't really feeling it?
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, the good thing is when I'm at work, you don't have a choice. You just have to go to work. So you have
Yeah,
to, you have to get going. And
yeah,
oftentimes repetition will help with that.
yeah,
You'll do one take and go, well, I wasn't really there for that one. And we do another one and I'm feeling a little better. But a lot of times it's that inside job. I do meditation, which kind of helps me control the racing thoughts in my brain. And if I'm current and doing good practice with meditation, I can find myself in the middle of a day going, whoa, whoa, wait a minute. I'm racing around. My head is racing. Stop for a second. Let's take a breath. Let's be here now. And then let's go back at it.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. I'm impressed that you can meditate because I've tried that before to help with like my anxiety and all my racing thoughts. And it personally didn't really help me. I
Yeah.
didn't like the quiet of it all. So,
I understand that. I'm a person who has music on all the time. If
yeah,
I'm in my office, I'm playing a record. If I'm in the car, I've got the radio on. If I'm on walking the dogs, I've got headphones in. So I
yeah,
never allow the silence to come. And in meditation, I'm forced to. And I'll say this about it, Maya. You're probably doing better meditation than you think you are, because I've now been doing it for a number of years. And I don't know that I'm any better at it now than I was when I started. That's why they call it practice. You practice meditation, just like you practice riding a bike until you're no longer practicing, you're just riding a bike.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, yeah, I used to drive my mom kind of crazy because she likes silence, but I can never like have silence on. I either have music or like a show or movie on in the background.
Right.
And yeah, I remember she once asked me, like, why do you always need something on? And I'm like, because if there's silence, I get in my head. If I get in my head, that's not a good thing.
Right. I like the saying that my head is a bad neighborhood and I shouldn't go in there alone.
Oh, yeah. I like that. Yeah. Um, so what small things bring you joy on a daily basis?
Well, we have four cats
Oh,
and two dogs, and I have two kids. So those are a lot of smaller things.
yeah,
Anything can do it. You know, I mean, it's
yeah,
kind of that. It's all about attitude, right? I mean,
yeah,
thinking make there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. I think is roughly the quote. Um, so if I find myself in a bad spot, I can lift my gaze and look at the trees and see how the sun hits the trees, or look at a particularly beautiful squirrel frolicking across the grass or what have you, right? When those are when I'm in bad moments, right? I got to go to something to get me out of it. But truthfully, when I'm already in a good space, man, it can be anything. I've taken lately to just going out and sitting in the sun. I'm not trying to get a tan. I'm not trying to do anything cool. I'm just going out there to be like, let me sit in the greatest energy source that we know and just let it cascade all over me and see if that doesn't turn things around, you know. But I look, I love music. I love pets. I love your pets. I love anyone's pets, right? I
yeah,
love kids. I love pinball. I play pinball. So there's all sorts of small things. Sitting quietly and reading a book does it for me sometimes too.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, yeah, I'm a big fan of the small things that bring joy.
Yeah. Well, it's all about the small things, right? I mean, the big things are really just an expansion on the smaller anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, so I am pop culture obsessed and go in stages of shows that I cannot stop watching. Is there a show that you are currently obsessed with?
I have been obsessed almost 30 years with Seinfeld.
Oh,
Uh, I watch every night. I watch at least one episode. That's what I do. That's my palate cleanser on the day. I
oh,
laugh at some silly idiosyncrasies in human behavior as exposed by a stand-up comic from 30 years ago.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that's probably my favorite current obsession. Of course, I'm also a big Survivor fan, so I'm always obsessed with Survivor whenever there's a season going on.
yeah,
I think that's about it right now, though.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, yeah, I really like Seinfeld. That's a fun show to watch.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah,
It's all
yeah,
the little jokes that I didn't get the first 100 times. Now suddenly I'm laughing at something that I go, I've heard that line 100 times. Why did it never make me laugh before?
yeah. That's how I am with some shows, like with Will and Grace, which is one of my comfort shows.
Yeah,
I don't know, there's like different episodes that I'll go back to and I'll catch something I didn't the first time, or like I'll
right,
understand a joke that I didn't before.
right.
So yeah, I
That's great.
remember. Yeah, I remember there was this one, or there were two that stand out to me that for a while I either didn't catch, or there was one I don't think I understood the first time I watched
Right,
it, and then watching it back several times. Like the second time I watched it, I understood it. And
right,
yeah, and yeah, now I think I've seen every episode. I've lost track of how many times.
right. That's where I'm at with Seinfeld. I have no idea how many times I've watched the entire series.
Yeah. Yeah, well, those are the best shows.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice to find one that you feel that way about. I was that way with
Yeah.
The Simpsons too. When The Simpsons first came out, I was the perfect age for it. So it was a show that I watched. I would record it on VHS, which is an odd idea nowadays, but and then I would watch it on tape 5 or 6 times a week before the new episode came out, and then I'd watch the new episode 5 or 6
Yeah.
times. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of off of that one now. It's still a great show, but just I think
Yeah.
I've overwashed it.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love those shows though that you can't overwatch them. Like no
Right.
matter how many times
Right.
you watch, it never gets old.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so do you have any irrational fears?
Yeah, I think boy, I love that you say irrational fears because as opposed to we're all afraid of a tiger, right? Like any of
Yeah.
us would be like, "Uh-oh." Um
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I think that I walk in a room and a bunch of people I don't know already don't like me.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You ever heard of that one?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that one. There's not enough good. There's not enough wealth. There's not enough time in the world for me to do and enjoy the things I want to do. I think that's an irrational fear because it's right now, get up and go do it then. Oh, but I can't right now, and then that's a fear too, which is I'm just going to fail anyway. So why try?
Yeah.
Um, but overcoming those fears, I have a friend who said fear is 100 miles wide and 100 miles high, but it's paper thin. So all you have to do is come up and go and poke your finger right through it, and you can walk right through it. But it looks like I'll never get past this, and that's a thing we all have in common.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do you find inspiration for your comedy? Is everything and everyone fair game?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think everyone and everything is fair game. I think that with time, every situation can become fair game. Once we get enough time behind something, you can have a joke, but it has to say something. It can't just be, hey, let's make a joke about, some horrible event that happened. There has to be a statement. There has to be some sort of message behind it. And in that regard, I think everything is open to interpretation or lampoon,
Yeah.
if you will. But I don't know that everything necessarily needs it or warrants it, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I, as far as where I get my inspiration, when I'm doing a TV show or a film or anything like that, and someone gives me a script, I look at it and I have an immediate feeling about the character, and my immediate thought on that character is usually some part of me or some part of, more often than not, it's my brother. I go, oh, that's like my brother, or one of my sisters or something, right?
Yeah.
Or mom or dad, the people in my life.
Yeah.
So I'll be inspired by what's on the page. And in the moment when you're shooting a scene, you can be inspired in that moment by something that the other person said. That's a wonderful thing I learned in the improvisation community in Chicago, is that if you're in the present moment, you hear everything that the other person says. So if I'm not listening, I just hear you ask me, what are some of your fears? I don't hear irrational fears. But if I'm really listening, I hear every piece of that cake that you baked, and I'm able to devour the whole thing. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yes.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense up here. That's why I keep saying that. Like,
Yeah.
I think I'm making sense, but
Yeah. Yeah. No, that happens to me all the time. That makes sense in my head, and then it just does not make sense when I'm saying it out loud.
right. I think that's all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also times I'll be having a conversation in my head and then start in the middle of the conversation. It happens all the time when I'm talking with my mom. I will tell her something and she's like, I was not a part of that conversation in your head.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It seems to happen more often with the people we spend more time with. I have it with my wife where she'll start to say something and I'll go, I didn't get the first half of that conversation because I think it was in your head.
yeah. Yeah. I love that. So what song best describes your life right now?
Whoa. What song best describes my life? Uh, Boy, maybe it's a cop out, but I feel like there's a song by the Beatles called Everybody's Got Something to Hide Except for Me and My Monkey. And it's a wonderful old song. I was 50 some years old now, but uh, it's a song about, the deeper you climb, the higher you fly. The deeper you go, the further you travel or whatever. I can't remember the exact words, but the idea is that like just expose all those secrets. Don't carry something around with you because that's dead weight.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I've really been trying to focus on this last year. We shot dinner with the parents in London, in England. I spent 4 months in England shooting that show. And when we got home, I said, you know what? I don't really have a community back home. Like, so I joined a pinball league and I met a bunch of new people there. And I decided I was going to really throw myself into this meditation. And so I've been throwing myself into the meditation, kind of like grabbing every moment when I can. And part of that is being honest, obviously with people around me, but first of all, with myself and going, hey, you want more, don't you? Yes, I do. Well, let's see if we can find a way to do that. So right now, I bought a couple of books on improvisation. I've studied and worked in improvisation for over 20 years, but I bought a book to read about it because I thought maybe there's more I could learn because I want to try to build a class. I want to try to teach. I want to try to pass on what I've learned. And I realized, well, you could do this many ways, but one way would be I got it. I could do this. I don't need any help. But if I'm being honest with myself, I go, well, no, you don't. You could use help. Okay, then I'll ask for it. So if I'm not hiding that insecurity of, well, I don't know everything, then I can find help. If I hide it and go, no, no, I got everything, I know it all, then I'm never going to get the help I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, so what movie or show do you find yourself quoting more often than you'd like?
Well, The Simpsons has always been a big quote factory for me and my friends. But my wife and I, we quote Seinfeld all the time. There's all these little sayings and little things that come out that are just, little things like, may I have one of those, madam? It means nothing to anybody, but we both know that it's from the episode where George got glasses and something, right?
Yeah.
Um, so we quote that one a lot. I can't, Star Wars was a big one for me too. The original, the very first, A New Hope, chapter 4, or whatever they call it now. That was a big one for me too as a kid. I think music more so though nowadays. I think there's an artist named Bob Villain, V Villain with a V, like the villainous Bob Dylan is who he is, and he's a punk rock rap artist from England. Um, and I think my son and I quote him quite a bit.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
real powerful, positive messages. His experience has been really difficult, and yet he perseveres and he shares his journey with his listeners.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I'm writing his name down right now, so I look him up.
Yep. Caution, not safe for work. Bob Villain's music, but good stuff.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that warning.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna look him up right after our interview. So thank
Yeah, do that. Yes.
you. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like my mind is mostly just um show and movie quotes that I just have stored
Yeah.
away to just bring up anytime.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I quote, I think Friends and Will and Grace are the big ones that I
Right.
all the time.
Yes. I think Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is another one that my kids and I used to quote a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's the one movie that I can or that comes to mind right away that my family and I all quote all the time that a lot of people have no idea what we're talking about is um a movie called Ishtar.
Oh yeah, I know Ishtar. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. My mom always told when my sister and I were growing up, she always told us about the movie because she thought it was hilarious. And
Right.
so then she showed it to me and my sister several years ago, and we just fell in love with it. We were
Oh, that's great.
laughing, like crying. We were laughing so hard, and so we just randomly quote that movie.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so if you had a warning label, what would yours say?
Oh, warning, contents are combustible. Contents may explode under pressure.
I love those. Yeah, I think those are good warning labels.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I feel like I'd need one that just says like that I'll just randomly quote um like make pop culture references and
Right.
quote things at any time that
Warning, may quote Ishtar or Will and Grace.
yes.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah, I love that one. I need that one. So
You need
thank
that
you.
t-shirt. You need that t-shirt. Yes.
I do, yeah. So thank you for that.
I'd like to help. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so what is something that people are always surprised to learn about you?
I think that I have such a big family, that I have six brothers and sisters, is usually a pretty big surprise to people, because not most people have families of that size. I think also I grew up in Florida, which is kind of strange to people, because I have more of I spent a lot of time in Chicago, a couple of years in New York. I think people tend to think I'm from, Chicago rather than from Florida. But
Yeah.
those are maybe the two things.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I just have one more question for you.
Okay.
Um, so I love inspiring and motivational quotes, and this week my favorite quotation is never trust your fears, they don't know your strength.
Ooh,
It,
that's good.
yeah, I saw that one and just immediately I was like, this is my new favorite quote. Um, is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
Yeah, there's boy, I got a bunch of them rattling around in my head. The one that's coming most to the foreground is, and I'll probably say it wrong, but it's something along the lines of, if you feel like you're in hell, keep walking, because the only way out is through.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's just for those tough times that everybody goes through. Everybody go. I have a son who last week wasn't feeling well, and he said it's not fair. And I said, you're right. It's not fair. It's absolutely not fair. But nobody's life is fair,
Yeah,
and that's really hard for us, especially as kids. I mean, he's a
yeah,
kid, and he's going, well, wait a minute, man, shouldn't it be fair? And I go, I'm sorry, it's not. But here's the good news: is nothing lasts forever. Everything comes to pass. Nothing
yeah,
comes to stay.
yeah. Oh, I love that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that.
we got to lean on each other. We got,
Yeah,
nobody can do this alone.
yeah, absolutely. I yeah, I'm so sorry. I was gonna say something and now I don't know. This is an example of it's in my brain that's not coming out my
We
mouth.
should we should just start over then. Or no, you just say a Will and Grace quote, and nobody will know that you weren't just thinking that already.
Okay, yes, I will. Yeah, I was thinking of a couple quotes, so
Okay, good.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, a lot of people when I quote that, like, will just look at me like I'm insane. They don't know that I'm quoting a show. I'm like, you have to watch it. Just there's no
Yes,
excuse as to why you haven't watched it.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, well, it was so much fun talking with you. So appreciate your taking the time to join me today. And yeah, I loved talking with you again. So
You
thank
got it, Maya. Anytime. You let me know. I'll be here for you.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
I I could just keep talking to you for
Me
hours, so
too.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll have to do this again.
You got it. It's a date.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. You too, Maya. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a wrap on today's edition of The Latest with Maya.